This show is proudly brought to you by the #Me Network. Access granted.
Kia ora, and thanks so much for tuning into Access Granted, our weekly tech and media podcast. We're up to episode 35.
35, mate, yes.
Yes. I'm Raj, my background's in media design, film and technology.
And I'm Mike, and my background is information wrangling, connecting people and getting things done.
And you're here because you're a Kiwi that has a great passion for tech and media in New Zealand.
Episode 35. Later, we will catch up with the wonderful LillanGrace from WikiNZ. But first, our focus for the week.
Right, the focus I thought we'd focus on this week was waiting for car to go by and action. The data science thing, right? So for years everyone's going data is king, blah blah blah, science, everything's amazing data, right?
Yep.
Like the stuff you're doing at GovHack and everything.
Yep.
Obama basically appointed a chief data scientist in America. I think it was last week. This guy named DJ Patel. Nice name, good on him. Nice Indian boy, you know. So he's come from, places like eBay and a few other places.
What did you call him? You said he's part of the what?
Oh, the eBay Mafia.
The eBay Mafia.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of guys, ex-eBay, who some of these, our listeners will know of the story where they've all split off and done other things and helped each other out and end up in great positions of power like this one. But this one's interesting where the government now are going, hey, we need someone to do this. We need to wrangle this data
When
now.
you say do this, what is it that he's...
I think he's chief data scientist, so he's like the head guy who'll run, I think, a division, section, right? And almost like some of the people we talk to who connect to government.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys in the government that people would connect to and talk to.
So it's all about bringing in the skills and the approach to look at quote-unquote big data. I've been talking to a whole bunch of people about data and data scientists, the GovHack stuff, as you mentioned, but also some of the stuff I'm doing with Aeroflow Limited. They've got a lot of data, and almost everybody who works in the industry, community, I don't know what you call it, hates the phrase big data.
Yes,
but
reminds you of big tobacco, right? So
could be.
Yeah, connotations there.
But it's as someone said, it's a great shortcut, handy word to you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So his approach, I suppose, is to bring in, let's say, that view on this is how you can use data, no matter how big it is, to quote unquote do your business, do the business of government. I know it's in the article that you shared, and we'll put it up on the Twitter sphere, and the Facebook and the Google Plus and everywhere else.
The what now? Oh, Google Plus. Right.
Yeah. The link says that he's going to focus on healthcare. That's the primary.
I think they've had big problems with that infrastructure, like trying to sign up for Obamacare, for example. They've had a few outages and things, especially in the first few weeks.
I don't think it's more the website, it's more to do with the
data
there's a lot of data.
Yeah, it'd be hard to sort of move it all around.
So you imagine if you go to the doctor, just all the data they collect about you.
Yeah.
Who you are, where you are, how
there is
you
that
are, and
part
all
of the conversation, right? I read down, and further down the article, I read the forum responses, and some were going, hey, this is another attempt for the government to just wrangle all the data and keep it all secret, blah, blah, blah. But I think that should be the opposite. I think the idea is to try and make it more open, like we have here, right? Or like we're trying to here. Right?
Well, maybe. Yeah. Well, maybe it's just bringing in the approach of lots of maybes, we don't know what we can do. Yeah. I think... and
at least
Bill
they're thinking
English,
about it, right?
Bill English was at a conference, at a SaaS conference. It was the SaaS user conference. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And he mentioned that policy making, if it's not done anymore without big data and evidence behind it, then it shouldn't be put forward as policy at all. And of course, he was talking at a business intelligence type conference, so he would say that.
Well, I think that's what I hear from a lot of government practitioners. That it has to be evidence-based policy making, right? There's got to be some major evidence behind the reason you do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get caught out, aren't you?
That's right. And now, of course, we've got all this data, and we're collecting. Computers are good at collecting data, and now we're going to do with it. So yeah, GovHack, July.
That's right.
July the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I think it is. I can't remember.
That's the best segue ever.
So GovHack is the GovHack NZ, which is part of the GovHack with Australia as well. It's all about using open data and government data, not just government data, but council data, local government.
Is that will they also have other entities, organisations, or businesses feed in as well?
So the GovHack NZ in July is going to bring as much government data as possible. Of course, it's all going to be anonymised. It's not going to have people's names on it, but it will not just use the current open data. We're working towards getting other data sets made available that will be then publicly available for anybody.
Right.
But you asked before about, is it just government data?
Yes.
Well, it's not just central government data. There's also, interestingly, the more interesting stuff is actually the local stuff, because it's at a much more granular level. So there's going to be local council, of course, Wellington City Council here, and greater regional council. But anyone's data. The classic is, there's some government data. Is there a trend here? Is that to do with the weather? So, well, the weather's not owned by the government. It's just open data, and so that might be mashed up together. And there's lots of other people who will be bringing data. Talking about big data, we had a wonderful conversation with LillanGrace, who's the CEO of WikiNZ. WikiNZ being the site where a lot of public data is sucked in and then presented in extremely readable, usable forms in graphs. But that's how it was, and that was a bit of an experiment for the last year and a half, and Lillian explains where they're taking WikiNZ and where they're taking the system that we now know as Grace. Enjoy.
So here we are, listeners. We're at the Fork and Brewer today, exporting our studio presence instead of going to our usual Studio One. And here we have Mike. Mike, who do we have with us today?
Today we have the wonderful LillanGrace from WikiNZ. Welcome, Lillian.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask 2 questions, but before I do, Raj has got a special question for you.
First question we always ask is, what makes you happy? That usually stumps everybody.
Yeah, people, good people, spending time with good people, making things that are intellectually stimulating and having fun, having adventures.
That's cool.
Excellent. And you're down here, you're based in Auckland, is that right?
It's true, yes.
So you're down here, you're not here for Webstock by any chance?
No, I'm not actually.
Just popped into my mind that the whole world seems to come for a week and then off.
No, I was the keynote opener at the SAS Suns conference this morning.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So when you guys are listening to this in the next week, that's all happened in the past, of course.
Yeah.
Webstock Week gives it away as to when we're sitting here. Could you explain to me, I suppose, the current version of WikiNZ? You were saying that there's going to be some changes as well.
Yes, so the current version I took live about 2.5 years ago, and that was, me going, right, I want to make data more accessible to people, and by data I mean it could be, government agencies having data on unemployment rates or water quality or suicide rates or any kind of data like that. And right now it's all been in databases and spreadsheets, and it makes it too hard for most people to use. And so through when I was working at a think tank, I came to see that people were like, right, actually they're really interested in it when they can see it, when it's in graph form, but really simple graph form. And through that process, I was like, all right, so there's people actually want that content, it's just that it's too hard for them to use. And so there's a huge difference between what's available and what's accessible. So I threw together the site that's been live for the last 2.5 years at wikinewzealand.org, and just to test and go, right, do people want to use this? How valuable will it be? And the response has been really, really wonderful, and that has made me happy.
We've used some of your graphs. Good. Yeah, we've shared a whole bunch of the gender
cool.
imbalance within IT, particularly. Yeah, absolutely.
And so through that and going, right, okay, people definitely want to use it, and kind of spending the last 2 years kind of gathering user requirements and just basically having conversations with hundreds of people and saying, yep, it's worth it now to step back and to design this properly, and now that we understand the pieces and what it needs to deliver. And so the last kind of 6 to 8 months we've spent architecting a new back-end platform, which we have now functioning, and I've been demoing, and it's called Grace, and that brings data in. It imports.
Little question.
Did you want me to answer that question instead? Yeah, it was pretty funny because it was the middle of the night and we were all on Slack talking away, trying to think of a name, and they're like, we need to start the code base, give me a name, and we're like, and I'm like, just call it Grace then. I didn't actually realise at the time that it was going to become something that we talked about externally.
Hard-coded into everything, yeah.
It actually is, and it's fine. It's it's fine. It is.
It's a wonderful name.
I'm proud of it, but it's pretty amusing now, especially doing presentations. Here's this thing. So we've built that platform, and so we import, extract our data, and standardise it, and then it has a chart designer as well. And then from that back end, from Grace, there's a public API that comes out, and that's what drives Wiki New Zealand and brings all the charts and the tables across. But anybody can access that public API and can take it and do whatever they want with it. And if it's for commercial purposes, that's fine, as long as the data, originally has that kind of licensing.
Yeah.
And so we've got that standing up and working well, and the whole new front end that we've been, getting proper designers to help, and copying from all the great things like Pinterest and Google Image Search and YouTube for sharing and stuff like that, just to make it so that it's a lot more usable and easy for anyone.
So you've taken what used to be the back end and the front end, split it so that the back end now is its own separate thing called Grace, of which anyone can plug into and forget about the front end if that's what they want to do.
Yes.
And then you've rebuilt the front end to be almost an example of what you can do using the public API, or does it have?
Yeah, it is actually kind of like that. Yeah. And so Wiki New Zealand, the trust, so we're a charitable organisation.
Oh, okay.
And that's been a really conscious decision, in the same way that if Wikipedia was a commercial organisation, it would be treated quite differently.
Yeah.
And we need people to want to share the data with us and things, and that's been an explicit in many conversations that people are willing to share, because we're neither government nor private sector.
Yes.
I've forgotten the first part of the question.
Oh, it was just that the front end that you built is an example of.
Yeah. So Wiki New Zealand Trust owns Grace, but that's something that we will look at licensing to other countries that want to do similar, or companies that want. Thank you so much.
You don't have these songs.
Didn't seem, customer service.
Don't think you're being treated special there.
Right.
He's grumpy with everyone.
Oh,
Okay.
It's a nice thing. So he's like that with everyone.
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing special there.
No.
But the
Sorry
chips are
about
good, so it's fun.
Yeah, it's all about the chips, not how they got here.
So how do you approach the places to extract that data? Do you have to go ring people up, or internet troll?
When we started,
Troll.
it started from seeing how much data was already sitting there. Probably thousands of data sets, and when I first launched the first version of the site, the National Public Library people emailed me their database in Excel and were like, oh, can you make graphs with our data? And I was like, yes, I can. And, showing book borrowing behaviour by region over time, that's interesting, right? If someone else visualises it for you. But there's just data that's already public, and the next phase will be to kind of dive in and help people bring out their data that's not yet across those lines. But for now, we can take what's already sitting there. In saying that, we're working with government through Land Information New Zealand, LINZ, who are in charge of the open government stuff, and we're doing a proof of concept right now where we're bringing data in from 5 different government agencies, and by the 20th of March we will be providing a cost-benefit analysis of what we're doing and saying this is what it would look like if it was an all-of-government service. And so we're looking at, the site needs to be free for everyone to use always. That's the purpose of it, to democratise data. But so thinking of revenue streams like data providers paying to bring their data on and other things like that.
Excellent. I'm going to talk Gov later, because obviously that's going to be a key use of that. Anyway, we'll get back to that. So 2.5 years ago, you had a brainwave. Well,
it was actually at 1:57 p.m. on the 24th of February, so almost 3 years ago.
1:57.
Okay.
I was like,
how do you remember that?
What were you using for that?
What?
A clock.
A clock, yes. And my brain.
I knew that I was going to leave the job that I was in, and I kind of created a context for thinking, and I'm a bit weird like that, and I was in Hawke's Bay at the batch under a tree on a blanket, and was starting to think about what were the most important things in my life, or that I cared about, that I wanted to put my time, which is my most valuable thing, towards, and all the issues that I care about, all of them. It's like every time you try and solve something, the first thing you have to do is run the numbers, and you go, right, what's the current situation? How does it compare over time to other countries? And we would always try and understand it with numbers. And I was like, imagine if there was a place that you could tap into that at all times, so that when you come to diving into an issue, and whether it's something to do with innovation or child poverty or whatever, that you've got the numbers just there. It's just already there. And and that, like, within kind of, I think about 7 minutes of lying down on the picnic blanket thinking, is like, had the whole idea and the whole image of what it looks like, what it's been looking like for the last couple of years, and the name of it, and it felt huge. Like, it was, like, I knew it was huge in that moment, and that's why I emailed myself, going, like, I've just had an idea, like, for goodness sake, what if it succeeds? Am I ready for this kind of thing? Because it's weird. It was, like, I've had ideas for things before, all the time, and they usually don't pass my own robust test of, is this actually what I want to spend my, for the next 6 to 8 years of my life throwing myself at? And this one kept coming up like, no, oh my goodness, oh shit, oh no, I'm going to have to do it.
Come on, do it.
And I just suddenly saw like the next 6 to 8 years. Like,
fantastic.
And so I wrote an email to myself.
There you go.
So it's trademark and it's copyright.
You will be doing it.
You mailed it to yourself? Not quite.
So prior to that, had you had any experience in the data world, wiki world, web world?
I started my career as a high school phys ed teacher. And
there you go, that's natural, obviously.
And then...
Didn't we all?
So that was interesting. And then spent 6 years helping to run a company called Massive Software, which is in the visual effects industry, made the artificial intelligence-based 3D animation software and movies and ads and things, and that was amazing.
Came out of a small suburb just around here, I believe. Yeah, true. Up in Miramar. Remember they were Miramar?
All right.
And that was amazing, and totally opened my eyes to business and software and travelling around to customers around the world and stuff, and I loved that. And from there went to the think tank, the New Zealand Institute, where the pace of change, it was so different. Like, I went from running around doing, like, hundreds of things in a day to sitting there and having 3 months to think and to look at stuff and to, like, answer a question. Or first to spend 3 months to try and figure out what the question was that we should be asking. It was just
amazing. What you'd be capable of if you had time to think about things properly.
It actually was really valuable. Like, yeah.
So how did you get from that to that? Was it related in any way, or was it...
No, it wasn't really.
1:27 a.m. you got a phone call? Or?
I met, just kind of in a work context, met the guy that was the director of the institute, and we kind of had like-mindedness going on. We're like, oh, let's meet. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for another job. I was thinking of it being in the software industry and stuff, because I love software. And he said, so we met, a month later, and he's like, I'm looking for a researcher and analyst. I'm like, I don't even know what they are, so that's not what I'm about, but this is what I care about. And he'd just done a bunch of work on the innovation stuff and internationalisation. I was like, no, this is exactly what I care about. And so I worked for a couple of weeks for free just to see if it would work. Yeah. And I just took to it like a duck to water.
Fantastic.
And he took a huge risk on me, right, to hire me, but it paid off for him. We worked together for a few years, and then I did strategy consulting with him, Rick Boven, and he was one of my original trustees of WikiNZ as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So we're talking as if you are Wiki New Zealand, as it's just you, but that can't be true, surely.
No, thank goodness.
It was, but it isn't.
Not anymore, no.
Started with one, right?
Started with one, pretty quickly had another, so David Brebner, who's the CEO of Umagine, a software company in Palmerston North, developed the first iteration of Wiki New Zealand for me, and did that kind of straight away. And he was one of the founding trustees as well. Yeah. But now so in the last few weeks leading up to launch, there's been like 10 of us working on it every day, and not everyone is full-time or paid well. But
it's the world of startups.
Yeah, yes. But everyone's got a line item now, so they're there. And so I have wonderful developers from Opcode, Richard Clark and Nigel McNee and Martin Smith, and our CTO Rob Isaac, and they have been just wonderful people.
Fantastic.
Amy Hooper's been with me now for almost like a year full-time, doing the product and marketing kind of stuff, and Hayden Glass, who does a lot of different things in the internet space and things, has recently come on as our Chief Operating Officer, which is really exciting.
Excellent. And majority or all the data that's in there now or will be in there, is that public and government, local and regional governments as well, or is it central?
Right now, central government stuff, yeah.
The idea is to obviously...
Idea is all of it, and we're also talking with some private sector companies that have a large amount of data that are interested in making that available at an aggregate level and having, proudly, supplied by so-and-so, and also academics. So in talking to Professor Sean Hendy, who's the new director of Te Pūnaha Matatini, the new Centre for Research Excellence, about how we can also a platform for academics to put their data on. Because the whole kind of thing is, I don't think we're going to be the one-stop shop, and I don't think we should be, right? And the same kind of model of Wikipedia, you go there because it's the place to go,
yes,
and then you can follow your nose back to find in-depth, research and other efforts that are going on, or find the sources of where you go. So in that same way, like going to WikiNZ to find data, and that might satisfy 90% of use cases.
Yeah.
But that's certainly not meant to be like where everything is solved.
Yeah.
If you want deep analytics, definitely don't come to us. If you want to get some raw data, or you want to look at some simple graphs just to know what questions to ask or to understand what data sets are, absolutely. And then follow your nose and see who else is playing in that space and can help.
I think that's my question there, though, is, on the Wikipedia point of view, because they're trying to do the whole world. We are but 4.5 million people, and why not stick all in one place?
Because we aren't domain experts, right? So I think the wiki component of this, the collaborative nature, will become more apparent as with the new site, and once we enable some other capabilities for people to add things and add charts and stuff. But it's really important, I think, that we don't consider ourselves the experts in all of the domains and all of the areas, and that, because that's like, data is not as clear cut as people think. Like, there are such subtleties with the way it's collected, with the way things are defined, and you need to keep those people really heavily involved in that whole process, I believe. And a lot of, like, say you're working with a government agency or an industry body group, like, they might have the best understanding of their data, and so it's actually really valuable for people to be able to go to their sites and see what they're saying about it. Yeah. And we don't want to provide that. Like, we staunchly don't provide commentary. Yeah. But you can follow your nose to the experts that are doing that. Like, our best case scenario is to have other things cropping up that pull from us, and have, if there was someone who created a site where they would post graphs and people were commenting and debating and arguing, and voting up and down or whatever, like, absolutely love that, but that's not our role.
Yeah, I get that. So we are purely the we.
Are you joining the team too? I don't always pay well, as you know.
Yes. I'll put my application in.
Okay.
God knows what.
It was actually hilarious the other day. We were trying to write our bios for the team page, and none of us have got qualifications. It was hilarious. We're just stumbling up with, I've got a brown belt, and I was a phys ed teacher. And
you have everything important.
Yeah, so no one. So it's quite amusing.
The best people look at something and say, I could change that, and then change it from the outside.
Well, yes. But also, it's really valuable having both types, because obviously, like, when you go really deep into an area and you are the expert from, studying it and learning it, then that's super valuable. Yeah, but I think having both types of people combined is what makes the magic.
The GovHack that we're arranging, and obviously you're fully aware of, we've been talking about the types. So I've got a theory that seems to be standing up, that for any event you need 5 items. And one of them, of course, is people.
I thought it was 167.
It should be, shouldn't it? And then you need 167 people.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
And no more, no less. It needs to be.
It's the magic formula.
That is. And the people side of it are split into 3 for the GovHack particularly, which is, we're going to have externals to government, and I'm not quite sure where you guys and WikiNZ sits. It sort of flows beautifully in between all of these 3, actually. The externals would be the people who are going to come along and do whizzy things with iPads and stuff and data. There's the data itself, of course, which without it we're not going to do much. And then there's the people on the inside who apply context and understanding to that data. And if we don't get all 3 in these events, we're going to struggle to end up with things that are useful and deliverable. And interestingly, you're across all 3. That's where you've placed the Wiki New Zealand beautifully.
Yeah.
So I won't do an event. I'll just say, go to this place.
Look it up.
Because it sounds much easier.
Maybe that can be your role. Maybe you can run our events.
You can what's right?
Maybe you can run our events and that can be your role.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it is interesting because I jumped into this area, the data area, without, kind of growing up in it. So I just started by asking questions and figuring out who was in the space and genuinely trying to understand the context that we're operating in, not trying to build something and tell everyone to come over here and jump onto what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's, on reflection, that's been really valuable to where we are now, and to the fact that, we've got government, like I've got relationships with multiple government agencies at various levels, and, like I just came from the Ministry of Education talking to the guy that's in charge of their data, and I was sitting there going, this is awesome, like this is his whole world, and to be able to, like, not go there and say, oh my goodness, this is a splashy new thing, you should be using this. I'm like, trying to understand what his world is like, and it's like, how can we actually add value to what you're doing? Like, you've got, you're not sitting there going, I wonder what we can do with, our data. You're spending a lot of time making sure it's really robust and serving the purposes of the ministry, and so it's really understanding how government works more, and the motivations and the existing lines of work that are already happening and how you can fit into that.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting because from conversations I've had with a lot of people, especially in the tech space and entrepreneurs, who go, how can I get like a minister to like my idea? I'm like, that's the wrong question. Like, if you want someone to like your idea, you can probably do a huge amount in that area. And also working with some people within media or academics and teachers, and just going like, if I am operating under the assumption that everyone can be a user of data, then I need to be talking with all of those people, not just people in the tech and the data space. So, it is interesting that we're positioned like across all of those different areas.
Which is, and I'm sure you know this, unusual, because I've done the split for no apparent reason, because that's how we mostly view the world in there, and I suspect it's wrong, and hopefully these sort of events and the stuff you're doing will challenge that and say, no, that's just the wrong way of looking at it, which I agree it is. But we do tend to be external, internal, and in the middle is this data, and we'll butt against each other.
Yeah.
With the Wiki New Zealand and the approach you're taking, are you finding that you're challenging that view from all parts of the tech industry, I suppose?
What when you say challenging that view, what do you mean exactly?
Well, we're outside, they have the data, they should just give it to us so we can do cool stuff. They, there's that word they. And then I'm on the inside, well, what do they want to do with our data?
Yeah.
How dare they ask for that stuff? So that's sort of, quite confrontational. There's all the word they and us, and as opposed to we, which is how I see it.
So I think that is how most people see it, but it's not actually how most people want to be or act. So I haven't had a bad experience with government yet. Like, they're so open to talking, and when you're...
That's because you've taken the time to understand the sort of needs anyway, right? You've gone in there with some idea of what they really want.
People in the private sector that I deal with that are saying, they want to make their data genuinely useful for government decision making. Like, if you're collecting a huge amount of data as a byproduct of the service or whatever that you provide, and these aren't people going, how can we, screw government, get money for this? It's like, we've got this thing, we would love to help. Like, how do we help? And that's, but I think everyone does assume that it's a them and an us kind of world, and I think it's set up in that kind of way, and I'm loving swimming between the two. It's, I feel very, I don't know, it's a pleasure actually.
Excellent. You're an unusual person, do you know that? Are you aware of the fact that your conversation is very different to all the others that I have in this area?
No, I'm not aware of that.
You're not?
Maybe they're just scared of you, Mike.
Not necessarily the conversation I'm having with people, but the conversation I'm having about the environment and the way we're playing.
No, I don't know. Don't know.
Lots to learn. We all have lots to learn from the approach you're taking. It's fantastic. Where do you see it going? Is this a lifetime mission?
No way! I've got way more things to do.
Where do you see yourself in 5
life.
years? Come on, that's an interview question, isn't it?
It's interesting because at the start of my life, I used to really want to be really planned about all those things, and I don't know. Like, I have a vision.
It's at this point my iPhone started to melt in the hot sun, and we just switch over to Mike's phone for the rest of the interview.
So the interview question is. And now you've had time to think about it.
Oh, no, I haven't. I thought I'd already answered it.
As we watch iPhones melt in the sun, it's where do you see yourself in 5 years? It was no way. Jose.
Way more things to do.
And then I said that I used to think that knowing was really important, and then now I don't like knowing all the steps, but I have a vision for how I think it will be, and that I think it will be, in 2 years people will just expect it to be there.
That's right. Will that be...
You're not recording, are you?
I am, it's right there.
Oh. Okay, I'll stop eating
She
my
wants to say
fries.
it the word, a nicer way,
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Right,
Just, fries in my mouth.
That's right. Sorry.
So, I think that, what success will look like for me is if in a few years nobody cares about what I've done because they expect it to just be there and to always work.
Turn on the internet and it's just there.
It's the way we get data, it's the first place we go.
Yeah.
Is that true? The sort of, when someone's in a pub and goes, really? Is that true?
Yeah.
I'll just go check.
Are there really more possums in the North Island than the South Island?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have a chart for that.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just have web properties? You're going to do an app or anything like that?
I don't know, actually.
I was just thinking about the pub quiz idea, have an app.
Oh, yeah, no.
But you could write your own.
You could write your own.
On top of the API and away you go.
Absolutely. Then
If I
you
had
could...
those skills.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, anyone else out there that has those skills?
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see what happens from it. And I suspect that there will be a lot of good things that stem from the use of it.
Yeah.
And making the data available in lots of different formats and stuff. Yeah. But delete that part, can't remember what I was going to say.
That's all right, I'll remember that.
With the Gov Hack that's coming up, of course, we talk about in July, that's going to be all about data. I can imagine Grace, the API provider, is going to be probably one of the fundamental key tenets to that.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, I'm still not clear on the purpose of Gov, and I'd like to understand the purpose more because I know, I can see lots of different purposes that could be what it's about, and that totally transforms how the event could or should go.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the best case scenario or best case output is.
I think that's an extremely valuable insight into that, and I agree. What is it actually that it's trying to do? Yes.
Because if the goal, there's so many different purposes. It could be like we want to produce some kind of output that's useful, ongoing. I don't think that's very realistic. Compared to if the goal is to, create cohesion between people that are involved, and so that people understand the different types of things that can be done, and explore and play and have it like a creative thing where there's no pressure to try and go, we need to have something to deliver at the end. I think that also is a really strong purpose. I just don't know where it sits. So in that way I don't know where we sit yet without knowing what the purpose is.
Fascinating stuff. Are you going to OSOS by any chance? The Open Source Open Society.
Yes, we're a friend of that. I don't know if I'll be going, but we are officially a friend.
You're a friend.
Yes.
You like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, look, Lillian, thank you so much for striding through all our technical issues.
You're very welcome.
I blame the sun.
The sun. The sun in Wellington has been there.
The phone melting.
Exactly. Thank you so much. By the time this comes out, which we think will be, what date's around?
I'm saying the 20-something of February.
So hopefully, potentially,
if it's
Grace will be live.
24.
Yeah, well, actually, when it goes live, you won't see Grace because Grace is behind the scenes, right?
This is true.
But we will do a video to demo Grace so that people can see what I've been talking about with this new stuff. Otherwise, I just think it's a website.
Oh, that's nicer.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
we'll make sure that we tell everyone that's listening and is out there when it goes live and what they can do with it. And thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
That was great. I've actually spent some time in data and analytics, and every week I spend a little bit of time in there. And after our interview, we had a bit of a play on her system, on the back-end system, and it was quite impressive. There's some cool bells and whistles as well as some interesting ways of producing the data and all the widgets and stuff that's involved in making Wiki go. So I can't wait to see the new site and how it's going to change.
That'll be very cool.
Yeah, it's going to be
I
great.
liked the way that Grace, the system, is going to be the engine that's going to power the website that we're going to see. But anybody else will be able to build their own whatever they want to build on top of Grace, which is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, that's our 35th episode. How do you say this? In the bag?
In the can?
In the can.
In the can, yes.
First of all, big shout out to Crumpets, the Boom Brothers joint Crumpet here on a very noisy Wellington Street.
Mountain Street.
We'll let this one in. We'll leave this one in. This is what poor old Raj has had to edit out of our wee bit. There's a lot of buses going past.
People that say that the buses are never on time in Wellington are wrong.
They're always
They're
here.
like clockwork. They're like clockwork over here.
So we'll just let that one go past. But as always, don't take our jibber jabber as gospel, as all the links go up with the podcast post on #me.co.nz.
And on the social networks, look for the podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Google+, where you can chat to myself, NZ Raj, on Twitter, or Atamurama Mike for Mike. And if you're desperate to email us, shoot us an email on accessgranted at #me.co.nz. And for all the other hashtag goodness and updates and news, check out #me.co.nz.
Thanks for your time. We really do appreciate it. And see you next Tuesday with the Kiwi tech people sharing their own stories. Ka kite and all.
#me.co.nz